Hello, and welcome to PPL518 Alternative Dispute Resolution 2. Remember what I said that in this course we are really looking at arbitration because of how significant and how important it has become over the years. So we're going to be looking at another topic on arbitration that will enrich your knowledge and make you better as you make progress in this course. Remember what we always also say, that to get the best out of the course, we must take our notes, we must take part in the activities. We shouldn't be ashamed to ask questions if we have any. So let's not waste time. Let's go and see what's interesting thing we are learning today. This is our fifth lesson. I'll be looking at establishment of arbitral trial. To be able to do by the time you finish this lesson will be to explain the proceeding, the steps for initiating arbitration proceedings. Should be able to look at the process for challenging, appointing, and replacing of an arbitrator and the role of the court in any of these steps. Commencing arbitration. Now, you commence arbitration, right? What this report supposes is that you already have an arbitration clause in place. In other words, you have agreed that if there's any dispute between parties, it is resolved by arbitration. So where there's an issue, right, the party who is aggrieved will first declare a dispute. And usually this is done in writing. It does it with a notice declaring a dispute and requesting arbitration, and then he submits that notice to the other party, and then the next step will be to establish a tribunal. This can be part of the first one. It can be part of the notice sent during the declaration. So the steps for establishing the arbitral tribunal will usually be in line with whatever parties agreed and which is reflected in the arbitration clause. Please note that the tribunal can be either the sole arbitrator or many arbitrators. Whichever one they are, they constitute the arbitral tribunal. And without the arbitral tribunal in place, there is no jurisdiction. Nothing can be done about arbitration. And it's also a bit longer than court procedure, where all an aggrieved party has to do is to issue a writ. But it's important to go through the process. The arbitral tribunal, will start with the appointment of the arbitrators. And of course, you know that parties control their proceedings. So parties can decide how they want the arbitrators to be appointed. And where there's an agreement of that sort, it will be expressed in the arbitration clause. So if they have agreed, usually whatever number of arbitrators they agreed will be stated in the arbitration clause, and that is what will be followed. However, if the arbitration clause is silent on the number of arbitrators, Section 6 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act prescribes that then it will be deemed that 3 arbitrators should be appointed. And then if the parties also have not agreed beforehand on the procedure for appointment, then there are two things that can be done, right? Let's say one party is trying to follow the arbitration agreement, and then the other party is not, cooperating, or is trying to frustrate the entire process. Then what the party with agree should do is not to sit and wait or to begin to seek damages for the waste of time. They should just go to court, apply to court within 30 days, and ask the court to take the necessary measures in order to give effect to the arbitration agreement and appoint an arbitrator or arbitrators, right? And where the court gives a decision, their decision will be final. The other party cannot appeal. First activity, I'd like you to discuss the first step in commencing arbitration proceedings. So take a few minutes and think about your answer. Challenge and replacement of arbitrators. So, of course, arbitrators have been appointed, but one of the parties is not happy with maybe one or more of the arbitrators that have been appointed. The party can challenge the appointment. Please note, however, that challenge is not based on the whims of any party. There are set conditions for challenging the appointment. There must be a specific reason that is in line with the law. And the provision of the law that is important here is Section 8 of the Arbitration Act, Arbitration and Conciliation Act, or you can also look at Article 12 of the model law, the ancestral model law. There are two grounds upon which the appointment of an arbitrator can be challenged. It can be on ground of justifiable doubt as to the independence or impartiality of that arbitrator, or that the arbitrator does not possess the qualifications agreed by the parties as reflected in the arbitration clause. Where a party, has any reservations under these two grounds, he can go ahead and challenge. Now, if a party challenges, an arbitrator can recuse himself, or even if an arbitrator having been appointed has any reason to think that his independence and impartiality may be impaired, or that his qualifications don't quite match what the parties agreed, then he can quietly recuse himself. However, if he doesn't do so, then the party can go ahead and challenge. First, the party who is not happy with the appointment of the arbitrator must give notice of challenge to the arbitrator he is challenging his appointment, the other members of the tribunal, and the other party. This is fundamental because of the principle of natural justice that requires that the other party must be able to defend himself, or the alteram partem. So in the notice of challenge, he has to state the reason for his challenge. And remember the only reasons we talked about under Section 8 of ACA. Now, when he has given the reason for the challenge, is one of two things. If the arbitrator agrees, he recuses himself. But if he doesn't agree and he remains, then the other tribunals, if it is a tribunal made up of more than one arbitrator, can go ahead and decide whether the reasons are valid or not. So if they decide that the reasons are valid, then the arbitrator will be withdrawn. Then the challenge will be said to have been successful. But if they decide that the reasons are not valid, then they can go ahead with the proceedings. But it's important to take serious thought about this, because this goes again to the root of the jurisdiction of the arbitral tribunal. So now, after successful challenge of an arbitrator, he has to be replaced, particularly where the number of arbitrators fall below the minimum agreed by the parties as reflected in the arbitration clause. So now replacement in that case must be done in line with whatever the rules, the procedure has been laid down in the arbitration clause for replacement of an arbitrator, right? The particular arbitrator that was challenged, what are the rules for how it should be appointed in the first place? You follow the same rules of procedure for replacement. Another ground, or two other grounds where an arbitrator may be replaced, is if an arbitrator dies or an arbitrator resigns. In both cases, in fact all of them, then the number of arbitrators may fall below the minimum agreed by the parties. Then there's need for replacement. Whatever the ground, right, it is important that the steps for replacement follow the steps agreed by the parties. Okay, and then and what replacement of course means that a substitute arbitrator will be appointed to take the place of the arbitrator that has either been validly challenged or has passed on, or like our second activity. On what grounds may the appointment of an arbitrator be challenged? Think about it. At the end of this class, some of the things we have been able to look at is the steps for initiating arbitration proceedings, the steps for appointment of arbitrators, and challenge and replacement of arbitrators. You can download the video and you can watch it again and again. If you have any questions, as usual, you can post it on the discussion forum and we will answer it. So the best. Bye.